This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to pull apart what the fuck is the thief of happiness? Who is it? What's going on? I think there's a famous quote, which I'm kind of half stealing this from, which is comparison is the thief of joy, or the thief of happiness, so to speak. And I think we're kind of just going to start there and go down that path, really, because one of the biggest things, and I definitely catch myself doing it. I'd be lying if I didn't. But the thing about it, I suppose, is catching yourself, right? And being aware that what you're doing is that you're comparing against something else. And the challenging thing is that we often do this subconsciously, right? We will find ourselves comparing our current situation to either somebody else's around us, or maybe what we'll do is we will compare it to where we think we should have been at this stage in our life based upon what we thought when we were younger. We compare it based on what our parents may think that we think our parents think where we're meant to be at this stage in our life. There's so many variables to this, and all of the time that we do this, if we're comparing against somebody else's reality, we don't know the full story in relation to their story or where they're at and everything associated with that. We definitely don't know, especially if we see it, I suppose, shown on social media. And the thing that I probably could recommend here is that if you continually find yourself scrolling and then you're feeling worse when you're scrolling, it's like, fuck, isn't that telling you something? Don't fucking scroll. Like, reduce your time on social media. And this is something that I'm like, I found it very easy for me to just scroll for the sake of scrolling, and then like justifying it to myself somehow, and then being like, no, I don't spend much time. It's for work anyway, and I'm just checking downloads, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. It's like, yeah, but you're fucking wasting time. So whatever actually ends up happening is that it's not just the scrolling and then the subconscious comparison to where you are or how happy you are in the moment, because often we don't go on the phone when we're happy. If you've noticed that or not, you're like, fuck, I'm really happy. Let me just get on my fucking social media account. No one does that. We do it when we're bored or when we're unhappy to distract ourselves. So what happens is that this sort of ends up being this spiral of negative thoughts, comparisons, this whole disassociation from the understanding that we are not looking at that person's current moment in their life when we're seeing what they're showing us on social media. And it's really easy to go, we only see someone's highlight reel, and I think that's pretty fair. But even that is like, it's still so subjective in the sense that, yeah, you're only seeing someone's highlight reel, but you're only seeing it through your lens, which is subjective anyway. So even if it wasn't a part of their highlights reel, if you're in a shitty ass mood, you're going to spin it to make it grumpy and negative, or whatever it is you want to call it. Like, it's really important to understand that social media is not inherently bad. The phone in itself is not inherently bad. It just comes down to, are you using it or is it using you? That's a really important thing to pay attention to, right? Are you the consumer, or are you sharing information that's probably going to be beneficial for a lot of people? Like, it's something that's worth inquiring about, is like, how much time do you spend on your phone and on social media? Then how much time of that are you comparing your life to other people's? Because I can assure you this, as long as you're scrolling, you're not living. So if you spend 3 hours, and people will do it, they'll spend 3 hours watching videos, scrolling, all that kind of stuff, and the brain is responding to every fucking single thing it's looking at, right? So, I want a puppy, or it's like, I need to get a new car, or this, or that, or whatever, and it's continually comparing, and comparing, and in doing that, what you're doing is you're stealing life from the moment. If you do it 3 hours a day, even 6 days a week, 18, it's nearly at 1 day a week minus sleep that you're losing every single week to think negatively about, and then how that affects and impacts your other days. There are no things out there that are going to make you happy. There's no materials out there that are going to make you happy. we think there is. I mean, I know I talk about this like extensively, but we think that if only I did X or if only I had Y, then I'll be happy. And it's like, no, because when you get X and Y, then you replace X and Y with something else that you don't have. It's this continual just like cycle of obtaining shit and just consuming, right? Thinking that happiness and that a happier you is always around the corner to the next thing, the next pay, the next promotion, the next everything. It's just like, fuck, when you realize that you're just not going to get this time back. Like, money comes and goes, but this actually, like your 20s or your 30s or your 40s or your 50s, like there are good things about each one of those decades. And if we're trying to sacrifice that decade for the next, then you're just going to get to the next decade and sacrifice the decade for the next, right? If you're not happy with what you have right now and where you're at, what the fuck makes you think you're going to be happy with anything else? And I'm not saying like happy as in, put it this way, like the worst thing, what's worse than hating your job is not minding it, right? Like, so it's not just settling. I'm not saying that. It's a whole stay hungry, stay foolish. I think that's fair. But what I'm getting at is then like where you're at right now for majority of people is actually where you wanted to be 5-10 years ago at some point. Now, what I mean when I say that, and this came across, I became aware of this even when I was in a real shit situation mentally, probably financially as well. I just remember trying to have this gratitude. I remember I meant to be grateful for shit. I just remember this, and I'm like, okay, people keep on saying I should do this gratitude thing, so I tried it, and it just felt real clunky and forced and fake, and like I was trying to fool myself. And then I shifted it, and I go, okay, all right, let me just see if I can ask a different question rather than what am I grateful for. And I go, what do I have in my life right now that I once wished for? And it just opened up a completely different view of my life, and I'm like, holy shit. There are so many things in my life right now that I have that I once wished for, and I'm just taking them for granted. Like, I can be happy. I once wished for these things so that I could be happy, and then I had these things that I'm still not happy. It's like, when the fuck does that end then? And it doesn't. And so it's been like understanding that when you are happy with where you are, that's when you'll progress the furthest. That's when you'll progress the most. It's because you're grateful whether something happens or not, you know. It's just a deeper level, and I think that's something that I really encourage all of you to go down and ask and look at. It's just like, we want to speed up, but we don't realize in order to speed up, we first have to slow down. We first have to take into account, you know, what are we actually giving power to? Like, we're giving power to, you know, the Joneses next door and what they have. It's like, what is it you want, man? Like, deep down, like, what is it that you genuinely want? And I think if you can't write that shit down on a napkin, like, then not even a napkin, a business card, right? Like, it's pretty simple. You probably want loyalty. You probably want, you know, security on some level. It's a whole Maslow's, right, hierarchy of needs on some level. But if you go back, I actually did 6 podcasts on the 6 human needs. It ties back in with that, but it's like, you don't need like a new car, you know this, but really, like, if you're not happy with the one you have, like, a new car is just gonna, it's just this like disposable happiness. Is that a thing? That's a thing. That's what I'm gonna fucking name this podcast, disposable happiness, because that's what it is. It's like, yeah, now I have this thing and I'm happy, but then I'm gonna dispose of it at some point when it stops making me happy. It's like, we fucking do that with people. No, your happiness and your peace is your responsibility. And if you can't do that with just by yourself, then there's fucking nothing in this world that can save you. Team, that is it. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you found this podcast beneficial, you enjoyed it, I would love it if you would share it with someone else that you think would enjoy this podcast and find it beneficial as well. As always, it's 17th. Today's the 18th of June. By the time you're listening to this, if you're up to speed, I would love it if you would jump on Facebook and jump on Mood Prep Online. I actually have an exciting announcement to make tomorrow, which is pretty exciting. So I'll be doing that on the podcast, but also on Facebook and social media as well. But jump on Mood Prep Online. It's free up until the end of this month. And hopefully I get to see you guys in there. Otherwise, as always, until next time, peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.